Hello everyone, welcome to Blocktalk. Hi, here with some awesome decentralists, Taylor, Camp, and hi, I'm Alex Dirk. Just mention our sponsors here quickly. We have Coinigy. It's the coolest cryptocurrency tool around for trading on every exchanges because sometimes the charts on traditional exchanges aren't just up to snuff. So here you can work with the same chart everywhere and connect all your APIs and trade from one location. It's great. Check it out at coinigy.com/blocktalk. The other sponsor is Jumbucks. So if you join the Jumbucks Slack and if there's any questions tonight that weren't quite answered, you can join for next Wednesday, I think it is. You guys are doing an AMA, and you can ask your questions there for a follow-up. It's great for asking questions of any kind, but yeah, join today.
It's the 27th for the AMA.
27th, okay. So without further ado, I guess we'll introduce everyone. Okay, so we're here with LBRY.io, unless you guys go by the more acronym term.
LBRY is absolutely how you pronounce it. We say LBRY when we're trying to make sure that people understand how to spell it, and we're saying it out loud. But it's on the screen, so I think people have figured that part out.
Cool. So I guess you want to introduce your whole team here. I know one of them very well, but let's get the whole shebang.
Sure. So I am Jeremy. I'm one of the founders of LBRY, along with Mike and Jimmy, who is not on the call. So Mike is our technology evangelist. He does a lot of our content, marketing, that kind of thing. Josh helps him with that stuff, and Josh does a little bit of everything. Helps us with finances and meeting investors and that kind of thing. And then Jack, along with Jimmy, are the two main developers on LBRY.
Hey. So we got some stragglers coming in here. We got Yuri and Kiko.
Yeah.
Not everyone follows their tight timelines.
They won the game of whether if you were going to start late enough or they were going to get here late enough, and they barely beat you.
Good call.
Oh, it's good. So yeah, I wanted to look good for tonight. Okay. It's been a little while since we've had a block talk, but so you guys are doing like a really cool project with basically combining BitTorrent and Bitcoin.
So we actually think that LBRY is a little bit more than that, but that's certainly a good way of starting to get a hold of what LBRY is designed to do. And that's certainly one of the first use cases for LBRY, is that we do provide decentralized storage of metadata, which is a big problem with BitTorrent. And solving that problem is a big part of our plan in terms of getting traction with LBRY in terms of what we're trying to do.
Okay, so are you guys using Bitcoin, or are you starting your own chain?
You can use Bitcoin to pay for content on LBRY, both in terms of for the data or for the content rights or the decryption key itself. The metadata storage itself and the naming system that LBRY uses, which is really by far or one of the most innovative parts about it, is a separate blockchain, because what we're doing there can't be done on top of any existing blockchain, at least not in a performant manner.
Okay, so
make a note.
And by the way, yeah, Josh told me I could dial the nerd way up on this, and that it was totally fine to talk very sort of technical and strong language or whatever. If I can talk about this in any number of ways, so just let me know if I'm not making sense or not talking about it in the right ways for you.
You push the button and the movie starts playing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what we're trying to do from the end user's perspective is super simple. It's give people a simple box, they type in it, they can find any kind of movie or music or book or kind of thing that is published to it, and they can start watching that instantly. And we do have a demo for you at some point to show you where we're at.
Well, why don't we start with the demo, I guess. We'll get an idea of what you have built so far, and maybe we can get the questions rolling from that.
Sure. Jack is going to screen share that part out. As we get into this, what I would first say is if you go to lbry.io/get, you can download the alpha version yourself. That is just the command line version. Jack is going to show you tonight where we are with our first graphical release, which will happen via a browser plugin. And you'll see that it does have a couple of bugs in this version of it, but I think you'll still be pretty impressed with where we are. So if you want to start that up, Jack.
Yeah, let's see here. Screen share.
So the command line version can do everything you would want to do on the library network: access a piece of content, publish a piece of content, mine, get paid, have a wallet, these kinds of things. Oh,
What I'm the background here. I'm going to.
Yeah, sure.
File.
So what Jack is going to do is open. He's got the daemon installed, and he's got the command line version of library installed. But he's going to show where we are with the graphical version. So what he's going to do? What are you starting the daemon first, or you're stopping it and starting it?
Forgot to stop it before I started trying to delete stuff.
Oh, okay. So you're starting over from scratch here.
Yeah. So I delete all the stuff in library. That is where the system files are.
He has deleted the program. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's all
like
over.
CSI
That was our only copy too. He just deleted it.
Flying by.
So it's rebuilding itself. It takes a second. It's going to tell me it started. Okay. Now, what I can do.
Hey. Okay.
I can go to LBRY://LBRY. That'll bring me to a search page. Okay.
You'll be able to do this in your browser with the browser plugin.
Yeah, this is very much an alpha thing, but it's still cool. So I come up with this. Now, at this point, it's going to throw an error. Give it a minute, and it won't throw an error. What it's going to do is it's going to try to open a video that it hasn't actually started downloading yet, so it takes a second for the download to start. But click this, tells me error. I can see
right now, there are several, in addition to us running nodes, there are several alpha testers who are connected to the network and are hosting the file.
You can see my bandwidth just jumped up. So now, if I click it again, there we go.
Hooray.
And so, of course, just simply being able to play a movie quickly is not that impressive, and our version of it certainly isn't that impressive yet in terms of what's the user experience there, how quickly can I play a movie. We're getting there. But what is really impressive is that what makes that possible is a network that is not possible to censor, that is robust to any attempt to centrally control it. And so anyone can publish anything to that network, and no one person can remove something from it.
But isn't BitTorrent in itself kind of the same anti-censorship sort of background?
So BitTorrent is really great in a lot of ways, right? We're not claiming that we've invented some brand new thing. We've taken the best parts of other good ideas, threw in a little bit of our own good ideas, or combined different things, and created something that's better than any of the parts. BitTorrent is amazing. We love BitTorrent, right? I mean, I remember learning about BitTorrent in senior level networking in computer science class and being blown away how brilliant the system that I was using to access certain files was. I didn't know how it worked prior to that. But it does. It's not perfect. It has some problems of incentives. People are not. BitTorrent relies on altruism, which I'm a fan of, but I don't think creates perfect results if that's what you're entirely reliant on. So there's content disappears, and it's not really great for the content producers either. We're trying to design a system where the end result is that content producers get paid as well. BitTorrent, a lot of what happens on BitTorrent is things that we would rather see a system that the people that are actually publishing the content make more money. BitTorrent also has problems of metadata storage. So BitTorrent works, but the metadata storage is still centralized, and that's another problem with it. So that's sort of our opinion.
Just to chime in here about the altruism point. with BitTorrent, the more popular content is going to be faster, more available, and that's how it's built. For LBRY, it could very well be the opposite, because hosts are going to be compensated based on, to some extent, the rarity of a piece of a file. So if people are willing to pay more, then it has the market incentives that you don't have in BitTorrent. You might be able to find that super obscure album that only you knew about from your that band that you grew up with in your neighborhood. You would absolutely never find that on BitTorrent.
Right. BitTorrent is very good at supporting popular content, just because peers are coming as quickly as they're going. But LBRY, by having people pay for the content that they're requesting, means that you have a proper incentive to actually continue to host content that might not be requested very often, and that, in fact, you make the most money in LBRY by finding what's the least supplied stuff that people want the most right now, whatever it is. Rather than constantly shifting to match what people want.
So, like you're saying, it's more organized, I guess, in a fashion or in some way.
Yeah, so I mean, what would probably make sense to talk about is the naming system, because in terms of your audience, which may be familiar with some of these other systems, this is, I mean, aside, there are product concerns where it's like, can some of these people actually create a usable product, and we think we have a good product team. But in terms of like actual differences of how the system works, the naming is probably the biggest one. And so the difference being with some systems, they basically give you random names. They don't give you a choice of a name, and they're promising that name is yours. With some systems, they let you pick a name, but when you pick that name, you get to own that name. And that has sometimes led to disastrous results. People just race out to buy all the names. And there is no system that we know of that properly incentivizes the rights holders to participate in the network, and that's what we think we've done with the way that names are allocated in our system. So the inspiration for this is the Coase theorem, which won a Nobel Prize, and it's that you don't own a name. Whoever has committed the most credits, and when I say whoever, that could be one person or any number of parties, controls that name's resolution, the price, what it is, basically. And any number of parties are essentially voting on that with credits. Those credits are committed, they can't be spent while they're committed. But someone else can come along and commit more. And after a certain period of time, at which the community / the person has a chance to respond, the name switches. What we think this will do is reduce bad content in the network, reduce malicious content in the network. It creates the incentives that names return what people are looking for when they type in that name or when they search for it. And it also means that if you're the rights holder, you don't have to go and negotiate with some asshole who's squatting on your name. You have the ability to take that over immediately. So there's no necessity to deal with chasing people down. It's within your power to do it whenever you want.
But it's all based on like a bidding war for the name.
Come again?
It's whoever pledges the most. So there's nothing that's being transferred. When you're claiming a name, nobody else is receiving coins. You are just essentially setting aside coins until you decide to give up your claim.
Yeah. You retain control of those committed coins. They just can't be used for any other purpose as long as they are backing that name.
Right.
So there could be a bit of a marketplace established. Like if I reserve Blocktalk 1 through 1,000, but I don't actually do Blocktalk, then as someone else comes around, they can outbid it. So
you don't get that money.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So the credits are destroyed over time then?
No, they're not destroyed. You reclaim them after somebody else has taken over the name. Or you can commit more into it if you want.
You can actually reclaim them before someone else has taken over the name. If you bought it and no one else came along and wanted it, you can simply withdraw it from the network if you wanted to. So some of the things that people might start to think that happen in this scenario in terms of these crazy bidding wars and scenarios, Now, look, so first of all, we believe generally you don't know what happens until you test something out. So we wouldn't make the strongest claims, but we think the outcomes will be very, very positive, based off of both this economic theory and if you think about it from a game theory perspective. It's not about how many credits you commit, but how many credits you can credibly commit. That is, there's no incentive for me to bid up a name if I'm ultimately going to get outbid. Okay, it's just wasting. It's just committing credits. It offers me no profit opportunity. So what we think will actually happen is that if the consensus of the community is that this name deserves to be owned by a certain person, the price will be very cheap. If you try to own a name and you don't, quote, deserve it, and so when we say deserve it, we can think of, pick a name for some movie or for something. There's someone who does deserve to own that name, and it's not like, RU Hacker 86 or whoever, does whatever releases. It's whoever made it. And so if that's the person who's holding it, the price should be low. If you're being a jerk about it, I think a lot of people would be willing to commit their money and their credits to not let that happen. We tend to think in these very clear economic ways, but both reality and experiments show us that people are willing to commit their resources to stop other people from doing things that they feel are unfair or are norms violations. And I think that most people feel that pirating content in an aggressive way is a norms violation.
Interesting. So the credits are all generated by mining this separate chain. So you guys are basically doing another altcoin on top of the Bitcoin layer as well.
I suppose we can't really say that it's not, quote, an alt coin. I think also that will be a terminology that we'll kind of laugh at down the road, because I tend to take the perspective that it's the blockchain that's the innovation, and the blockchain will be used to power more specific applications for performance reasons. Like, we forget that we're spending $1 million a day to operate the Bitcoin network, and so therefore we should think about how we can build performant blockchains specific to the problem that we're trying to solve. Aside from that, you don't have to use library credits. If the protocol does not specify what payment, it's a handshake. So if you want a handshake on Bitcoin or handshake on free or handshake on whatever, you're my friend and I trust you because I know you down the street and we are just free to one another. Handshake whatever you want.
Well, you do need library credits to do certain things.
If you want to publish, and that kind of thing, you would need library credits, and we're certainly going to encourage people to use library credits, right? But
I'd like to coin a new term right here on this show.
Please do.
Let's call it an app coin. This is a coin that's being created specifically to power an application. So we're not trying to compete and say this is going to be a better money and people should save in this and it's going to beat Bitcoin. It's specifically, it makes the app work.
Or a token, if you want to use an old term instead of a new term.
Well, I'm the younger guy and you're the older guy, so you can use the older term.
I wear it with pride.
And in terms of the design of library, we've been fairly conservative with our choices. We've gone with consensus things that seem to have worked. We're not doing some crazy new thing. We're trying to create what we think is a really cool application and a really cool economic design that will ultimately, our goal is for there to be more art, more things created, less money taken by people in the middle who don't really contribute to the process, and basically everyone wins, but some assholes who think they deserve to profit off of things way down the line and who didn't really help with making it in the first place. So this is not some system where we're trying to screw over the people who make things.
Because something that LBRY does is that, why is it that content creation and distribution are coupled? Are authors necessarily good at getting their book out there and getting it out there at the best price to the people who want to read it? Probably not. But what this means is that the person who actually created it controls the value of the key that's used to decrypt it. But after that, the encrypted pieces of that content are hosted by anybody. And so that means that it's going to be provided at the lowest price that you can get. So on the one side of that, on the distribution side, I think that we're offering big efficiency gain. And that can mean that the price that people set for keys can really start to incentivize people to do the right thing. So.
So right now, is the network generating coins? Like, are you guys doing mining right now, or is there going to be a Genesis block in the near future? Like, how can we get involved in this and earn some credits?
Yeah, so we're in testnet right now. However, we are giving you credits for participating in that testnet. So if you go, oh, did I freeze up? No. Okay. If you go to lbry.io/get, you can participate, assuming you're comfortable in OS X or Linux from the command line. You can participate, and we'll give you credits. You just have to fill out a short survey.
1,000 credits.
1,000. That's right. There's numbers involved, and I have to say them. We are approaching that stage where it will become real, and the more people who can help test, the sooner we get to that reality, because we continue to find bugs every day. And what you can also do if you're not at that stage of wanting to test it at that level is you can absolutely get on our email list, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. We're on Reddit. There's probably some tiny Chinese social media site that we're on, and we're getting followers on there.
I hope so.
In China, it's huge. I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, the point being, like, if you're not ready for that level, subscribe to us in some way. We're going to be progressively coming out with things. So that UI that we demoed tonight, that's going to be coming out very soon, and that's a level that anyone will be able to use. So definitely get on our list so you can find out when that happens.
There won't be a open up the command line and wait for the error to clear.
Yeah, that's some work to do. But,
the only thing I'll add is, in the beginning, when as we roll out and go from alpha to beta and so on, the credits are going to be flowing pretty freely. We're going to be doing a lot of incentivizing people to adopt this network. So if you get on our list now, you're likely to be among the first to download it and get your first 100 credits or whatever the case may be to just get you using it. We don't want people to have to make any kind of transaction or spend money to get on the network and start using it.
Yeah, and that's very true. I mean, really, if you're taking the time to listen to this show, like, don't be the guy who threw out 200,000 bitcoins, right? Like, it'll only take you like 10 minutes. It's worth your time.
So the chain, is it proof of work like SHA-256, the same as Bitcoin?
It's proof of work. It's a mix of algorithms. That is actually one thing that we are releasing at the very last second because we don't see any benefit to telling people that. But that's the answer. We understand that, yes, you can ultimately always ASIC, but there are at least some benefits in the short term to being resistant.
Well, I assume we're going to be competing against Josh with all those miners he has in the background there.
No, unfortunately, they're ant miners, and they're only SHA-256, and unless I want some heat right now, they're just not going to generate a lot of profit, but I really think you guys need to be drinking a lot more beers there. I sent you some money, so if you don't drink the beers, then Alex is just going to pocket the money and drink them himself. I mean,
well, they went straight to the machine. I don't know. As we've been seeing the light go off, we got a couple of guys around here.
Did they go straight to the machine?
Yeah, the old address. Oh. Okay, so we're going to talk to Freddie and be
drinking beer.
Where's Freddie, Alex?
Well, what is the new address? Do we have it handy in the Slack or something? I'll get it to you guys, and we'll get a round of beer.
Whatever address you sent me on Twitter, I sent Bitcoin to earlier.
Oh, geez, yeah. Sorry, folks. We're going to have to get that money back.
Technical.
It's okay.
Was that like a Cripsy address or something?
No, there's more hope than that. Any other questions here, guys? We'll get the address.
How does discovery work?
Topic. Sorry.
Discovery of content, I mean, like searching for things. What exactly are you searching? A central database, or is it like a DHT, or what happens there?
The library uses DHT.
Yeah.
That was an easy answer.
The searching is actually, the metadata is in the blockchain, so any miner that has a copy of the blockchain is capable of responding to search requests.
Yeah.
Or if you have a copy of the blockchain yourself.
The blockchain contains a hash that you look up in the DHT, which then gives you the information about all the other hashes of the piece.
So when you upload a file, you kind of fill out a form saying what it is and tag it with certain things?
You give a description. There's actually many of the fields that we can have are sort of a convention. That we can have logo images that are either, they could be files within LBRY, they could be HTTP files on a server. It could be anything really. But you have, description, key fee, an address that the key payment goes to, things like that.
Is there anything like storage where you're kind of mining through that file and you have to kind of proof of file, like you generate some challenges that you can challenge people with to make sure they actually are storing a copy of the file they say they are?
You could, as in we have some hashes that prove that you have the entire file, but we're not doing like a proof of file ownership.
So you're not rewarding people for kind of adding redundancy.
Well, you're rewarded.
Adding the reward for hosting files is the market process, is the process.
So you're just letting the price take care of it.
Yeah.
Second here, I'm so close. I've tried 3 different wallets. Only one lets you get the address copy pastable. Blockchain.info. So props to them for at least considering guys like me who need to just get the QR. All right, there it's sent. Sorry I missed that last question, guys. But any other questions or?
I'd like to know like the main differences between LBRY and Alexandria.
Sure. So the way the first one by far is going to be that naming system. We really think that is going to be very important in terms of making the system work. The names having these values and the way that they're done means a lot. The second one beyond that would be, well, this is one that actually the second one beyond that would be one that everyone says, but is super important. It's how do you actually do the damn thing, right? Like it's not just a social network. It's not just a movie streaming site. It's not just this app or that app. It's how does the product actually look? How does the product actually work? And there, I think we have a very strong team for creating a product that's going to be top notch. Beyond that, the way that we're doing the metadata in the first place, in terms of what the network facilitates and how it does it, there are some differences there that I also think will matter. And there probably are more differences. To be frank, I haven't spent that much time digging into exactly what they're doing. We've spent a lot more time doing our own thing. So if you see some other ones, let me know.
I don't think that there's also anything that has an actual market, like a marketplace per piece.
Yeah, is Alexandria just extending BitTorrent?
I believe so. Yeah, I think they basically.
Yeah, so we see BitTorrent itself as also having more mistakes. So we take BitTorrent, but then you can do other formats and a lot of other things because we think BitTorrent itself is not a perfect format for this. So we're hoping as the network gets traction that people will publish things in a way that's not BitTorrent.
A lot of these blockchain apps are going to come down to execution. I've been involved in Bitcoin community here in New Hampshire since 2011, and we've seen a lot of different ideas come through, and people have startups, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, on the blockchain. And what really got me involved with this project in particular was Jeremy and Jimmy's focus on usability, keeping the end product really simple. I think that this could be the thing that actually puts blockchains into, puts cryptocurrency into everyone's living room, and they won't even know it. So Alexandria's got a similar project, similar mission. I like their aesthetic, but it'll come down to who executes best, and maybe we'll end up working together. Who knows? But I was really enamored with what Jeremy and Jimmy had showed me early on, and how far they had gotten just basically bootstrapping and not asking for any money. And we've continued on in that direction, really with a user focus.
So are you guys looking for VC money, or are you looking to do like a crowd sale, or you're just going to launch the network and with your own involvement kind of get the return back?
We're exploring a number of options. We have taken on some investments and are considering taking on more investment, and we'll probably do that. We are also looking at how soon we can sell credits and what that would look like. We're also trying to be careful with how we do that, and we think some of the other people who have done that have been somewhat reckless. So that's also an option that we're exploring. This thing will come out one way or another, so it's not a matter of these things being requirements. It's just a matter of us continuing to figure out the strategy. I mean, if you are like swimming in some kind of bucket of money and you want to send it our way, I mean, you can absolutely drop me an email, but it's not. We're not obsessing about it.
To continue what Jeremy said about the crowd sale, you know, there's been a lot of crowd sales, and we've all heard of the big ones, and we all know what they are, and you can point to them and say, look, they did it, but, you know, we've done that, and we still feel that there's kind of some unanswered questions, and it might matter, it might not matter down the road, but we kind of prefer to err on the side of caution for now. So.
Sorry to interrupt. What do you guys want to drink?
There we go. We distracted. It's raining beer.
$3. Was that the Bitcoin was at the door for the beer? The Bitcoin finally got there.
It goes directly to some machine, Jeremy. They got something wired up there.
Hand-delivered Bitcoin.
Have you guys not seen our vending machine?
No, I was just going to ask if you could explain how that works.
You guys are in Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
Can I come by your thing, your place?
Oh my God.
Cool.
Somebody is making some profits with the altcoins here.
That light goes off every time $3 in Bitcoin are sent.
So it's actually.
Yeah, we got a Raspberry Pi inside the machine that's scanning the blockchain.
That's awesome.
I
I just sent them some more Bitcoin.
We'll get more variety.
I think that was it. Oh.
There we go.
Need some beer coin.
Thank you, Josh. You're very generous.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I wish we would have done it a little sooner into the show. I thought I sent to the right address, but apparently Alex gave me a different address or a wrong address. Some random person is having beer now.
Yeah.
We'll get Freddie to buy his beer again when he wakes up in Vietnam.
Or we'll send it back to you. Is that address going to be a problem if we send money back?
No, but don't worry about it. Just put it on the next show or something. And I miss Freddie. You have to give him my regards, even though he has no idea who I am. He's entertaining, though. He's always there. He's like a fixture.
Sorry, we interrupted you. I was just going to ask about tech stack. Like, what is this all built on? What platforms did you choose to build this?
Jack, you want to answer that? I've been talking a lot already.
So
I can answer it, but
LBRY core is a modified Bitcoin, and LBRY net is entirely written in Python using Twisted.
Twister.
Is anything more specific?
Oh, is that the Twitter?
Twisted.
Decentralized Twitter?
It's an event framework in Python.
Oh, okay.
It's nothing to do with that Twitter clone that came in.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Both my
Entirely written in Twitter. The character limits have been a major challenge with coding.
Nice. The Twitter API is our entire application.
That's right.
oh my God, the Twitter API. The Twitter API is the worst. Are we at the point of the stage where I can just start like ranting about things?
Go for it. There was a big rant today with GitHub with thousands of people signing up and complaining about GitHub. So
You know what really grinds my gears?
Well, all right, look, because this is a technical audience, and I've been wanting to rant about it. I'm just going to rant for like 30 seconds. We had to put in, we're trying to get like our Twitter followers and stuff into like just a spreadsheet every like couple of minutes. And it's all on the website, right? Like I can load the website. They're displaying this information publicly. They don't ask for any information. And then all of a sudden I want to get that same number via the API, and it's I need to write like fucking like 30. Okay, is this uncensored? Like 30 lines of code to get the number. I'm better off grabbing the web page and scraping the damn thing than to use these APIs. And the API is supposed to be like the good way to do it. It's like who thought this through? It's so dumb.
But their reign over that rate limiting on the API is like the only thing they have left to sell, really.
Yeah, well, they'll rate limit you over HTTP, but I mean, if you they can rate limit you over an API that's not, you don't have to sign into it because they rate limit you over HTTP. They already, because I already tried when I had it going every minute. I already got rate limited. So if I do it every 15 minutes, I don't get rate limited. All right, whatever. That's my rant. Someone else want to rant, or does people have more questions?
I'm curious your view on IPFS. Have you tried that out at all?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's trying to do something different, right? IPFS is that other format that I was talking about, where they're going to give you a unique signature for that file. Like IPFS is trying to be decentralized file storage. LBRY isn't trying to be decentralized file storage. If you want to just like store a picture or store something for your own use, like LBRY is not a good choice. LBRY is trying to be information like discovery and payment for that information.
Monetize.
Yeah.
I see IPFS as basically URIs that we've had for years, but everybody ignored. We just made them mandatory for IPFS, so you can't publish something without having a permanent, non-changeable URI attached to it. So everybody just starts behaving better. You know, we could do everything that IPFS talks about now if people just used URIs, but they don't.
Yeah.
They use URLs and they die and they go stale. So.
Yep. So I mean, the thing is, IPFS, it seems like it's a good, like decent technology, like it's implemented well and everything like that. It doesn't seem like it's exactly there in terms of like, well, how is it going to get like traction and popular? Like, will people actually, that kind of thing. But I think that they're doing decently, so we'll see.
I think it could end up being a good sort of alternative to like using S3, where you just kind of dump images there for your website, and they just kind of, it's like a free CDN basically. They just get served to people directly versus.
Yeah, it's just whether or not, like, if I as a business, like, I have to do this with another company. We have all these images in our CMS, and it's like, oh, can I really, like, I really trust Amazon, right? Like, I really don't think Amazon's going to lose my images. Like, that'd be like a big deal. Whereas, like, I don't feel like I would be able to put as much trust in a network like that, at least at this point. And there may be a day where it reaches that point. I believe that there could be a day where it reaches that point. But then the question is, well, how can it survive, and how does it get to that point where it has that level of density to like that everyone would trust it? Yeah.
Well, you got a question, Cam?
I don't know if we already talked about this, but did you read Mike Hearn's blog post today? And like, curious what you think about it.
To the point.
I did.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of silly. I mean, I tend to generally think that like markets are like generally rational, like generally. But if Bitcoin's at $430, then no, like Bitcoin's not over. Bitcoin is worth approximately like $430. Like that's approximately the best signal. If you want to know the strength of Bitcoin, look at the price. That's probably the best thing to look at, not what some person's opinion is. So I think a lot of what he's writing is he's upset and he's frustrated, and that is, what he's saying, even if that's not exactly what he's saying. That's I guess that would be my impression of that post.
To build on that, I think it's not an unbiased analysis. He's letting his passion and his feelings, and he's kind of like he's leaving the world, so he's saying, oh, the world is ending, and maybe it's easier to feel that way, but I don't know that it's completely objective. So I'm generally in agreement with Jeremy on that.
Well, my take on it was that he was saying, 5 people control Bitcoin, but turns out they don't, because we're seeing these forks pop up now, and it looks like in a few weeks people will be mining on Classic, and there'll be an election in Bitcoin, and people will get to decide. And it turns out that Greg Maxwell doesn't have a stranglehold on Bitcoin, because if in 2 weeks' time nobody's running Core because they're all running Classic, which is basically the same thing, there's, like he only has power over the people that are running the software he has commit access to.
Yeah. Well, I think you get into some really tough questions there, in my opinion. To me, it's like the Bitcoin Core devs seem like they're definitely making some mistakes in terms of how they're running their community, like regardless of the specifics of the technical matters, like they're not handling themselves well or conducting themselves well. But I think personally, so this is outside of the technical issues, so don't think of these comments as specific as to what the block size should be or what version of Bitcoin you should be running. All I'm saying is that I am skeptical of the idea that we would want to vote via hashing power the way that the network works. I understand that that's, of course, the way that the network actually works in reality, but to accept that as a norm, that that's an acceptable way to be doing things, I don't think that's a great outcome, because I don't think that miners actually have the proper incentives that the users of Bitcoin have. Those incentives are misaligned. And it may be that the users of Bitcoin would prefer to trust some small group or some other method that's not just voting via mining power. I'm a little nervous about that idea that that's the way we're going to vote on the way that Bitcoin works. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
I'm calmer about the incentives because it's sort of I get that they spend a lot of money that's now locked into Bitcoin. If you've just spent $20 million on mining equipment, you can't just kind of turn around. You're now invested in Bitcoin, so you're going to run whatever you think the users want because you don't want to crash Bitcoin. You've just now basically buying miners is almost the same thing as buying Bitcoin. Like you're now just sitting on a bunch of this stuff. The only problem is if you just bought miners, you can't quickly turn around and sell it. Like if you had just bought Bitcoin, you can sell it again. But if you just bought miners, you now need to wait a year to get that money back. So you're fully invested. It's almost more bullish than just owning a whole bunch of Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's a good point. And I think the most important thing is that Bitcoin needs to be clear about how these things work in general so that then the market can decide. The worst thing is this kind of uncertainty where it's like, well, are there 5 devs in charge, or are we deciding by voting off of hashing power? Like, what is the way that these decisions are supposed to be, like, made? And the fact that there's not a consensus on that in the first place, like, I think that's a problem, one way or another.
Well, it's interesting how much people or companies are getting ostracized for supporting one chain or the other, like Coinbase and all the hubbub over what was it, Bitcoin.com. Like everyone immediately wants to pull them off, and say they're tarnishing the entire name. How dare they?
I think that's the Thamos problem, and that's totally different.
But it's not just him. I mean, that just drives me crazy. I don't generally, I don't like vitriol in general in any format. It's what I hate about politics. And then it's like, it's the same thing here. Like, people have the strongest opinions about these things that when I talk to them, it's like, it seems like they don't even end up knowing that much about it sometimes. And so it's like, let's be charitable to the other side. Like, let's assume that this guy is also you have generally the same incentives, and then people get right. Everyone likes Bitcoin. Everyone's Bitcoin to succeed, and then people get so angry with one another and so strong in their views. And I'm like, I've never been able to feel that way or associate with that.
Yeah, it's bringing up some wider issues with the internet where you have massive communities with getting on for 200,000 people, and there's just kind of one guy who can just kind of censor everything. Like, we've never really had a situation like that before the internet, where you just have so much sort of power over censorship, especially without huge financial investment. He just kind of lucked out being a moderator of that forum that was the one that grew really big.
Yeah, that happens a lot on Reddit.
On the flip side, I mean, the internet lowers the cost of going off and doing your own thing. People, everything, even Bitcoin can splinter into multiple different coins. People aren't necessarily locked in the way they used to be, where you're sort of stuck in your town with the people that you know. And I think there's a lot of flexibility, and people will try different things and see what wins out.
Knowledge is a double-edged sword.
The downside, the hard thing with Bitcoin is if there's anything catastrophic, if people lose confidence in Bitcoin, just getting people to embrace crypto in general, getting that excitement again, because Bitcoin is the vanguard. But hopefully, projects like LBRY, if we can get out there and start doing other things with other chains, and for us, it's going to be a managed way. We have a company, LBRY Inc. And we're going to do it's going to be an open protocol, but we're going to do our best to foster it. People are going to know who's in charge, who's created this thing and is looking after it, and they can choose, well, is this valuable to me or not? And maybe Alexandria across the street is a better network.
It's interesting seeing actually some price movement in Bitcoin alternatives right now with a little bit of the downtrend we're seeing. Like, I'm curious, what are your opinions on like something like Ethereum and how they might be a competitor in the future for you guys?
I would love if someone could correct me on this one, because this, to me, when I start to look at Ethereum and think it through into what we're actually talking about, I feel like I'm missing something in terms of how it could ever be that popular, because it seems like the incentives are against the network growing, right? Like the Ethereum is, everyone is computing the same problem in Ethereum when you're pushing something, when you're doing this type of computation on the Ethereum network, and so, or at least a bunch of people are, and so this is expensive. The more people that are doing it, the more expensive it is. And we need to think about things from these like first principles perspective in terms of like, well, why would I want to pay for the cost of this operation to be done hundreds of thousands of times or millions of times if I only actually need it to be done once? And the bigger the network gets, the more expensive, essentially, the more money you have to be willing to pay to perform an operation in the Ethereum network, the more successful the network gets. And those seem like the opposite of the principles that you would want. But has someone made that argument against Ethereum before? Someone must have. I haven't seen it. I only read, I just read about it. That was always what I thought about it. But
I mean, I don't see it being used for trivial applications for that reason. Like, I understand with the financial contracts and things, but just for, liking cat videos, Ethereum's probably not the right platform for that.
Right, but not just that, but the thing is, the larger of a deal that you're doing, the more, like, big banks don't have a reason to use Ethereum. Like, banks can trust the established institutions that exist in their countries, right? Like, banks don't have, when some large bank goes to negotiate a deal with some other large bank, like, they don't have this problem where they're like, well, unless we do it on the blockchain, I'm nervous that you're gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I get that it does have benefit, but these benefits are more for like resolving like smart contracts where you might not trust the other party, and this kind of thing.
I disagree a little bit, because I feel like it's a kind of open secret that banks can't really send money to each other, right? They don't trust each other. That's why everything goes through the central bank, because that was their way of trustworthy sending money to each other. Like, it waits, it just pretends like it's sent, it waits till the end of the day, and then the central bank clears all the transactions overnight, kind of thing.
I tend to think, so I agree that banking sucks, and I deal with the problems of moving money around and how terrible it is all the time. I tend to think that banks suck because they're very protected from people establishing alternatives, and so they haven't had pressure to innovate, and that electronic currencies absolutely will put pressure on them to innovate, but they will innovate, and they will, for the most part, I think a lot of them will just simply fix their shit. They'll stop like making these things be so hard because there's finally a reason to. I mean, I think we're going to see them adapt in terms of the services they provide.
The other strategy they took was just when they needed an intermediary to get these things done, they just bought it out like together. Like, that's what happened with Swift, where they needed something that would sit in the middle and hold all the financial messaging going back and forth. So they just got together and kind of invested in it as a group and built it. And that way, like, they don't care what Swift charges because they get it back in dividends at the end of the year.
Going back to the point about the central bank, I think that might not indicate that banks in a major way don't trust each other as much as if you had access to someone who could print money, I would always choose to have that person settle my transactions, because if anything went wrong, they could make it right but at their whim. That's like, it's just such a nice benefit that there's nothing that could compete with that.
Yeah, swoop in with $2 trillion to rescue you.
Yeah, oops, we lost your money, but don't worry about it. We'll print some more. Everybody's going to be fine. Absent that kind of major market distortion, I'm sure banks could figure that out.
So I'm just reading right now a post from Cripsy, a blog post. I guess the Big Vern finally broke his silence about what is going on with their exchange, and they're saying a year and a half ago they were alerted to a reduction in their safe and cold storage balances of Bitcoin and Litecoin. a year and a half ago. So they decided to keep it silent and like, oh, we'll make the money back and we'll fill the balances out. Yeah, okay. So they're saying 13,000 Bitcoin were stolen, 300,000 Litecoin by some developer that was.
Someone with access to the cold wallet.
Yeah, yeah.
Who could have done that?
Exactly. Yeah, it's nothing to do with the fact he's, empty his, or they shut down everything without telling anyone, or, oh yeah, they closed their withdrawals. But I'm one of the fortunate ones, I guess, that got my money out sooner rather than later. I had like less than $10 in coins there. I don't know about you guys. Did you have anything on Cryptsy?
I never use them.
Probably for the best.
Alex, are they sticking to the story about moving out of their office, that it's a cost-cutting move and it has nothing to do with them closing up shop? Did he address that?
It says it right in the beginning. It's like Cryptsy has had some problems for some time now, and it's time to let everyone know exactly why. These problems that were not because of any phishing attacks or even a DDoS attack, nor does it have anything to do with me personally. There's already been stories floating around that he was getting divorced. He sold his house late last year. And now the offices are closed. So apparently he's in China. So I think he's like skipped town with a lot of coins, possibly, allegedly. It's pretty cut and dry at this point, though. But this is basically like Mt. Gox 2.0. Like I think a lot of people saw the writing on the wall.
Do we know the supposed balance?
Yeah, they're saying it was 13,000 Bitcoin, 300,000 Litecoin, and a couple other smaller cryptocurrencies.
That's what's stolen, right?
That was
what's
the
does he say what's left? To reimburse maybe.
He says current customer liabilities are around 10,000 Bitcoin, so that's what they're willing to cover, I guess. And then he's got a bounty for 1,000 Bitcoins for what's left, a donation address.
Does he link to the transaction that supposedly stole the money?
Yes.
Yeah, donation address.
That's more than Mt. Gox did.
And his wife wants half of it.
Yeah, I think that's the issue with the divorce. They want half of the stolen coins. There's a Wallet Explorer link here. I'm sorry, I haven't read thoroughly enough into it, but no, this is definitely news for sure. Breaking right now here on Blocktalk.
Kind of a shame if you think about it, because for a long while they were like the one you could trust and the one that had volume, and I guess it's the old MySpace thing, but we're down to very few places you can reliably trade alts, and it's a really good thing that Bill and Richie are pretty visible in Jumbucks, because I think it gives people a level of comfort, that transparency, for what it's worth. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, Bill and Richie from Bittrex, they run a pretty good operation, and we've had them, Bill, on the show before to talk about BitLicense and whatnot, and they're very up to snuff with their programming and whatnot. They have a really good status page on all of their currencies, so if one goes down, like right away why the market's closed down. So it's basically, I like to describe them as one of the best HTML wallets out there, but that might be too much praise, but who knows? These guys work pretty hard, and they're very visible and easy to contact. Where Big Vern, I think we get one Twitter update from him every like 3 months, and now with the recent news, it's been like 2 a month. So it's nice to see someone like Bittrex, or a group like Bittrex, being so transparent. Is there any other exchanges you guys would recommend?
Well, we're definitely going to have a listing at Bittrex when the time comes. For the moment, I don't personally, for alts, trust anywhere else. I mean,
what about
there's
Shapeshift?
always a few other sites, but nothing comes to mind. I mean,
what about Shapeshift? Does that fall into this category?
That's technically an exchange, yeah.
It is.
That's my buddy Eric, so I got to plug him.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. He does have good ideas.
He's a trustworthy guy. I think Eric would be the last guy I'd ever expect to hear that he had covered up any kind of,
I miss his writing. He writes so beautifully, but
he does.
It's few and far between these days.
That's right.
Wow, this blog post is way longer than I initially realized. There's some stuff on Paycoin in here too. The initial article by CoinFire. He's addressing, I think, almost everything from like the last year. why now when apparently I guess the bills couldn't be paid anymore. But I'm gonna have to come back and read this more. Yeah. So I guess what do you guys think of the price right now? Like we usually like to kick the show off or end the show with price predictions. We could probably go through with that right now. So right now we've actually dropped since we started the show from 4:30, as you guys were mentioning earlier, to 4:15. No, our pop machine does not sell to fiat right away, so we can't be blamed for this crash. I'm sorry. I know that was a lot of movement on the market, but geez. Hey Cam, do you think you can share my screen here, and then we'll show everyone the price, and yeah, we'll go around the room and let's get a prediction for what we think Bitcoin might be in the next week. We'll start off here with Josh.
I'm going to go 400. I think there's a little bit of more negativity from that blog post we were discussing earlier, but I don't think it's going to be a real severe issue.
Okay. And Jeremy.
Am I allowed to give the answer of I don't predict random walks?
Like the price is right and say $1.
No, I'll say. Well, I predict the exact price that it is right now. That's probably statistically the most likely.
That's 415 and some change. All right. You got Mike or Jack? Yeah, let's go. Jack.
I guess 370.
370. Ooh, bearish. No hope for Bitcoin. What do you?
We are forking, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You're the Peter Schiff of Bitcoin.
I'm gonna also not gonna be fun and defer to the Cadillac-y here. I hope it goes up. I think it, you know, I'll say I hope it goes to 500. No, actually, I don't. I want it to be stable. I'd rather it be stable. I hope it rises slightly over the course of the week. So let's say 420. I like that number.
All right. 420 for no reason at all. Like endorsing the 420. Okay. Ren, stop screen here.
430.
430. And then Kiko.
427.
427. I'm gonna be really bearish. I'm gonna get the bottom of the chart here and say 300.
Wow.
Yeah, I think. Well, in a week I'm probably being too bearish, but I got a pretty good short going right now, and I really need to spread that FUD. Yuri, what do you think? The price of Bitcoin.
I don't think we should let Yuri play. He runs an exchange, so has insider info. He sees the deposits coming in and out.
Yeah, you will be committing several securities frauds if you say a number right now. So I would just be careful.
It's Canada. We're not scared of those guys here.
All Canadians trade on Bitcoin.
Okay. Guilty.
Just crashing from multiple exchanges at once. All right. We're at 413 right now. Where do you think we're going to be in a week's time?
In a week's time, I think it's just a knee-jerk reaction to Ernst's post.
Okay.
We'll see if that happens. Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of people are upset, but then they realize, you know what, it still works.
He's not going to comment.
I mean, I can still send $10 million for 5 cents.
Is there still that site? Is bitcoindead.com?
I think
Bitcoin
so, yeah.
obituaries.
Bitcoin obituaries too.
All right. Yeah.
Can we add Mike Hearn to that list? Not quite. I guess we can, actually.
I think so.
The Nakamoto Institute also publishes interesting. They have this /skeptics, I think.
Okay.
And there's this. I think the latest Mike Hearn's post was added there now.
Oh, okay.
We need a number from you. Where do you think the price is going to be?
Yeah, this is all speculative.
A week?
Yeah, a week from now.
A week from now? Let's say 600.
Oh, wow.
Canadian.
Canadian or American?
Canadian.
Oh, Canadian. So that's. Oh, let me get my
So that's
converter.
$5 American, I guess.
Excuse me now.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, he's really optimistic.
That's 417. So pretty close to where we are now. Taylor.
So
I actually
disappointing.
think we're going to see more downturn from
I
China.
trade more than these other guys, so they don't care.
So I think that's good for Bitcoin. So I would say 500.
Okay.
Do you think that affects the Bitcoin market these days? Like just general stock market panic? Do you think?
If it gets bad enough, I think it does.
It depends where too. When it's bad in China, it seems to do something. Doesn't always indicate the direction though. It's kind of weird.
The Chinese come up with very inventive ways to move money.
Yeah, monitoring their stock exchange recently has been pretty interesting. Like they're pretty good at manipulating their stocks. And when I read on like their trading hours, they're a really short day, and they actually have like a break in their trading for lunchtime. Like it's really funny seeing their charts. So there's basically, I think, a guy who's entering all the orders, and it's like, no, I don't want that one. Like, okay, and then goes to the next guy.
It's more just like every bank you're no longer allowed to sell stocks.
Yeah.
That is the new law. Like how do you even price anything when that's going on?
Rule with an iron fist, yeah. Cam, what do you think?
421.
421.
Ah,
Well, someone already.
Price is right on me.
Yeah, man, you just got prices right. And
I did.
I'm surprised 420 didn't hold a little stronger here. It bounced pretty good earlier in the day, but I guess those stoners just weren't buying enough.
Do you think that's Cripsy announcement?
They got lazy.
Possibly. I think that money's been gone and in the market for a while, though. I think he had
Oh yeah, it's not like a theft that people think are going to hit the exchanges in the next hour. It's just more bad news.
Well, and in Mike Kern's post, I think he said he already sold all of his coins. So
All the couple.
It's kind of a lame thing to say.
yeah.
I always think like
It was a very, very bitter.
I don't buy that.
I mean,
Yeah, maybe it's pretty good fun. Well, and I posted earlier today on my Twitter, I'm like, we need one more obituary before the halving this summer. So I think this is kind of like perfect timing to have a little calming of the markets, a little more of a U-shape to kind of bring us into the cup and handle that is the next all-time high. So I'm still hopeful this year will be a really big year for Bitcoin.
preach it.
I'm pretty curious about the halving. I was very curious about the Litecoin halving, and that kind of proved to be a non-event. And people attributed it to all kinds of interesting things, like China having free electricity. And I mean, whether that's true or not, I wonder whether it's going to have a different case for Bitcoin for certain reasons, or if people are going to think it's really going to have a big impact, but it's not. And I can't decide. It's an interesting question.
Well, I think we get exponentially more priced in as we get closer. But that's on a pretty long time scale. Some of us were planning in that halving for a long time, you know. But there's people that are new to Bitcoin and they don't even know what it is, so they're hardly pricing that in already. As like efficient market hypothesis would say, everybody knows about it, so it's already priced in.
And from a supply standpoint, it's not going to change that much. Like the amount outstanding versus the amount being created versus how much is traded on a daily basis.
I mean, I just assume from a mining perspective long term, they're going to be earning half as many Bitcoins, but they'll be worth twice the price. So everybody's talking about, you know, how, oh, these poor miners, they're all going to be put out of business. I don't see it like that. You know, 20 years from now, they'll be earning a fraction of the Bitcoin, but they'll be worth a lot more, I think.
One can hope.
Well, and this kind of marks a really good point for the majority of Bitcoin being mined. Like we're going to be at 75%. So like,
yeah, the inflation rate's now like 4%, which puts us on par with, you know, inflation in the UK or inflation, you know, in any Western country.
Yeah.
So it's like half what it is in Latin America.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So any new users at that point, you know, are bidding up the price.
The Litecoin having though is it was a really good chart to look at with the difficulty and whatnot too, because you can see like a little dip in the hash rate and then it comes back on again. So it looks like miners were shifting from one place in China to another one. They were kind of progressively unplugging and plugging back in.
Yeah, they sold their miners second hand and then somebody else plugged them in somewhere else.
Yeah, somewhere closer to the dam.
I expect us to see a very healthy second-hand miner market at the halving for sure. The people with high electricity costs that have maybe been running them in their garage, they will sell them to people with lower electricity costs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good fan of the show, Not So Fast. He runs an altcoin mining rig, and he's been monitoring, I guess, the Kijijis in like Toronto and a couple other southwestern Ontario areas. And he said, like, within the past couple weeks, like, they've pretty much all been removed from Kijiji or been sold. So the people are snatching them up now, I guess, even for the mining. Yeah, getting while the getting's good.
At a certain price, it's always worthwhile.
Well, you know, if you've got electric heat, you might as well run Bitcoin miners. It's just as efficient, right?
Yeah, and they'll put all the big mining data centers out of business eventually. People just, underfloor heating in their homes because they don't care what the cost of electricity is to some extent.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize Greg Peacock, one of the other decentralists, wanted to jump in on the chat.
For the price?
Maybe, I guess. I think he says he totally disagrees with this guy. So I think we got to get him on here quickly and let him voice his opinion. But not just a little bit, like he told through and through. So I'll send him a link here. But
on what?
I'm not sure. He didn't really specify, but
Everything.
he has to give a voice to anyone who disagrees. Well, and initially I thought it'd be kind of cool to have the guys from Alexandria on here to maybe have a little bit of fireworks, but maybe we'll have you guys on again with Devin, and we can talk a little more on how decentralized media should really be approached.
I like to think we're about.
Sure, but I'll tell you, the 99.9% of people have no idea about any of this stuff. We don't look around at what other people are doing and in these areas and concern ourselves with that. If there are companies to learn from, it's the giant companies. It's not, it's not. We're not enemies here. Our enemies are much bigger.
Well, I see YouTube really taking off right now. Like, it seems like there's so much content being hosted on it. So, like, you guys are gonna have a real uphill battle with, like, just the Google media giant that is YouTube.
Well, Google, yeah, that's right. YouTube is not a wonderful deal for content creators. You hit 10,000 views before you start getting paid, and then you get $100 for 10,000 views. I think a lot of artists on LBRY are going to be able to make more, especially if they have a hit.
And this is where our feed gets cut off for bashing YouTube.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's good. It's good for having a free tool available for people. Like, it's like everyone's got the same playing field. But yeah, if you can make it any more level, then by all means, it's a really good idea.
And plus, YouTube has the issues that any corporate operated site is going to have. They gotta there's decency standards and people pressuring them in one way or another, and we are not in the same vein as good encryption. We are not going to have the keys to this thing, so we're going to foster it and grow it, but it's really going to be owned by the users, in a significant sense. So I think it'll be a lot of appeal, and I think there's a lot of people who are not very satisfied with being content creators on YouTube.
And I don't know if you're a first principles guy at all, but think about the cost that goes into building up everything that YouTube builds to distribute what is essentially a number and a little bit of metadata surrounding it, and how much infrastructure and complexity that goes involved. That's completely artificial. That's completely unnecessary, other than their desire to have a bunch of control.
I've noticed something recently. I found it on Reddit that a lot of media is on Facebook right now, and there seems to be a really big battle between Facebook and Google because so much content is actually being stolen from YouTubers and then reposted onto Facebook, and then it's getting millions and millions of views that really aren't being, properly allocated to the people who originally do it. Is there kind of, a metric that you guys think you could offer those people?
Yeah, it's really easy to stop those things, either for the person itself, for the community, or for anyone. If you're using someone else's content to profit, and literally anyone in the community doesn't like that, they can stop you.
Raises an interesting question. Is there any way to sort of embed library content in a web page?
That's
I mean, so LBRY is designed to be a protocol, so absolutely. That is not what we have built yet, although, I mean, you saw how our stuff works through the web, but it's something, everything is open source, by the way, so like you can go and see all of our code right now, but it will absolutely be possible to do something.
Version of the URL handler or not, but yeah.
It's designed to do that kind of thing. Did we have more questions, or was that guy going to come on and ask questions? I can stay for like a little bit longer, but we are on East Coast time.
Oh yeah. Well, it looks like he's maybe chickening out. He gave us a price though of $380, so he set his piece there. But I don't want to hold you guys too much.
Keyboard jockey.
All right, hey, you guys, how's this place work? Maybe we don't need to get into this on your hangout, but I'm going to be in Vancouver. I want to come by and check out decentralized Vancouver. Is that a possibility?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had lots of Bitcoin hackers stop by over the last few years.
You can even stay here.
Oh, really?
Only out for a hotel, yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll reach out to Alex.
Yeah, that's me. But I'll direct your queries in the appropriate manner. Much better than the Bitcoin beer. So.
Beautiful.
No, it's good, and like I'll mention right now, like I moved out here a year ago from Ontario to Vancouver, and stumbling across this group of guys here, this is probably like the closest to Bitcoin you can get, meeting cool people online, but also meeting the developers. Like you guys are doing some really cool stuff in the space, and I'm happy to have met you in this time. And unfortunately, maybe I'll tell the public right now that I'm actually moving back to Ontario, but I'll continue Blocktalk that way, and we'll still have these cool hangouts over the internet using YouTube right now, but maybe LBRY live streaming in the future. We'll see.
There you go.
Yeah.
We are planning on building a telepresence robot, so you will be able to, stroll around this room and have a beer with us remotely.
Exactly.
Like Charlie used to do. Charlie Shrim.
Oh, yeah.
Only our telepresence robot's going to be dressed up like the Bitcoin wizard or something cool.
Yeah.
Going to give him a little cloak or something.
It'll be good. All right. No, this has been a great show. Thanks for coming out, guys. I appreciate every one of you coming out from your team, and we look forward to hearing more updates. And also the AMA, if anyone has more questions that weren't answered here today, like Greg, be sure to join the Jumbucks Slack at slack.getjumbucks.com. And it's the 27th, I believe. I'll have to get the exact time, but I'll tweet it out right after the show, and yeah, join in, and you'll have a chance to ask any questions that were missed here today.
Thanks, gents.
Thank you very much.
Go to the website, follow, like, tweet, LBRY, type it into Google, do a test, please. We love you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, take care, guys.
Thanks.
See you in the next 1,000 blocks.